Good afternoon, Tom. Rob Futter here from Cresco. Nice to speak to you. As you're aware, Cresco is a project finance advisory business helping clients raise finance and implement projects across sectors, mining, renewables, and other, all across Africa. And specifically engaging with you today around opportunities around political and commercial risk enhancement, covering some of the key areas that IPPs or international investors might be looking at, specifically in South Africa, as part of the renewable energy private sector that's been opened up with recent government regulation changes. I don't know if you can tell me a bit about what you've been getting up to and what you think the appetite is for these sort of projects. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks very much, Rob. Just to give a brief intro to kind of BPL and what we do. So we are a specialist credit and political risk insurance broker. We have just coming up to 40 years experience, and we've got a kind of insured portfolio of about 50 billion. So that's kind of assets that we manage on behalf of our insured. Of that, kind of Africa makes up around 20%. So it's one of our largest region exposures. So yeah, they're happy to take a look at your inquiries.
So as I mentioned, we have clients who are looking at setting up renewable projects, selling within the South African network. So generally remotely in the Northern or Western Cape, selling to large buyers sitting in other parts of the country. And there's generally a lot of risks in these PPA that sit outside of the control of the generator and the load, as we call it. And I wondered if there were some insurance products that could help us cover some of those to give comfort to both debt and equity investors.
Sure. Yeah, South Africa is very kind of topical at the moment. Kind of, I suppose, along with Mozambique, there's a lot of news at the moment, not necessarily all good news, and also the private market. We have seen claims emanating from the recent riots, so yeah, it's definitely very topical. And it's not to say that the insurance market is closed; it's certainly open, just for the kind of the right risk. So for this, I suppose, under the captive power projects, we've got kind of two options that we can look at. So the first is the kind of investment insurance. So the covering the investors for the kind of the full sweep of political risk insurance perils. So that covers your financial interest, so the kind of net investment in these projects. We can also look at covering the lenders as well, who are providing funding to either the IPP or the SPVs. You're covering against the borrower default due to a political risk event. And then on the other side of that, we could look at covering just the pure kind of property based PV and terrorism cover, and that's based on kind of property values and covers you for physical damage and business interruption.
So you think sort of a civil unrest event that might sort of burn out a transmission line between the generator and the load might be covered through this insurance policy? So
ordinarily, the cover would have to be a kind of a direct event on the, towards the captive power project. That's not to say that we can't incorporate a kind of element of kind of contingent cover. We've seen insurers looking for kind of cover, as you say, on elements outside of their direct project. So here we could look to potentially cover events against the transmission line that prevents the captive power plant from operating, and we would look to approach underwriters on the basis of maybe covering this under a political force majeure event, which prevents the operations.
Okay, I see you've got an example of a Mozambique project here. I don't know, how would we go around getting some pricing for something like this, similar for South Africa?
Sure. Yeah, Mozambique, similar to South Africa, kind of a lot going on there at the moment. I suppose in contrast to South Africa, which is more sector specific. From an underwriter's point of view, this is more location specific. So obviously the issues are going on around the Cabo Delgado region might make that particular area quite tricky at the moment, but that's not to say the rest of the country. I think the market is pretty open for business. I've used this brief little example here of a captive power project selling onto a commercial off-taker, and again, split out the investment PRI and the property damage to PV. So as you can see, we don't need an awful lot of information to go and kind of canvass the market. I'd say if you had a kind of project info memo, would certainly help. But just knowing who the insured is, what their previous experience is in the country and the sector, their relationship with the government certainly helps. and also just the quantums involved, who the lenders are, whether they're DFI, commercial lenders. So yeah, it wouldn't take long to approach the market.
Oh, well, thank you. But Tom, I think that helps a lot in terms of giving us some inputs, and I'll revert back to you soon. I think there's a lot of projects out there that could benefit from this sort of cover. So we look forward to engaging. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.